Welcome to Calm Coding, the weekly cybersecurity show where we try to filter the latest news and stories from the front lines of digital defense just to bring you the essential knowledge you need quickly.
Yeah, and we've got a pretty critical stack of sources this week. They really paint a clear picture of an increasingly fragile digital world, showing how security incidents are hitting things we rely on daily. I mean, airlines, travel, national power grids, even core telecommunications.
And that high-stakes game with 0 days seems to be accelerating too.
Definitely, especially with these brand new exploited vulnerabilities.
So our mission today really is to cut through all that noise and maybe explain three major trends that seem to be emerging from the chaos.
Okay.
First, the really crucial difference between, say, a big internal IT failure and an actual external hack, especially looking at the transport sector.
Right, perception versus reality sometimes.
Second, that escalating danger from supply chain attacks hitting core infrastructure suppliers. Very targeted stuff.
Yeah, the ripple effect there is huge.
And finally, we need to talk about the specific weapons being used, like commercial spyware, exploiting brand new flaws against governments and, well, others.
The darker side of the market.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Maybe start with the travel industry. It seems like it's facing chaos from, well, everywhere lately.
It really does.
We saw Alaska Airlines grounded hundreds of flights again, second time this year, right? But they were very clear. IT outage. Not a hack.
That's right. A classic operational failure, it seems. They traced it back to a collapse at their primary data center.
And they were quick to deny any outside cyber involvement.
Extremely quick. Stressed repeatedly that flight safety was, quote, never compromised. But, I mean, the impact, huge. Over 50,000 passengers suddenly stranded.
Yeah, the public story here is really interesting. It's an IT outage, not cyber, but it forces them to bring in external tech experts to diagnose their entire IT setup.
Well, exactly. Because the failure, as they put it, underscores the work that remains to be done to ensure system stability.
It almost makes them look, well, incompetent maybe. Like they can't keep their basic tools running.
That is the crucial professional nuance, isn't it? If you get hacked, even badly, you can sometimes spin it as being targeted by sophisticated actors, almost a weird badge of honor.
Right, we were important enough to hack.
Exactly. But an internal system collapse affecting 50,000 people twice in a year, that just screams failure in basic resilience, maybe under investment.
The trust erosion must hit harder then, because customers see internal weakness, not some external bad guy.
I think so. It feels more like the company's own fault.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. Because at the same time, basically across the Atlantic, we have a pure cyber event hitting Dublin and Cork airports.
Ah, yes, but this one came via a third party.
The supply chain angle.
Textbook example.
Yeah.
The breach wasn't directly at the Dublin Airport Authority systems. It hit a key supplier, Collins Aerospace.
Collins Aerospace, right. And then what happened?
Well, a cyber criminal group apparently got hold of boarding pass info and published it online, potentially affecting millions of passengers from August 2025.
Okay, millions. And the specific data, booking reference, first name, last name, frequent flyer number. If I'm a criminal, what am I actually doing with that? It sounds kind of minor.
It really doesn't seem like much on the surface, does it? But it's not trivial at all.
How so?
That combination lets criminals triangulate. They might not get your home address immediately, but the frequent flyer number, that's often the key.
To what?
To unlocking or resetting access to your airline account. And that account likely holds your contact details, your upcoming travel plans, points, balances.
Ah, okay, so it's a stepping stone.
A direct springboard towards identity theft or targeted fraud. Think about frequent business travelers.
Yeah.
Very valuable targets.
So just in this one sector, travel, we've got two huge but different threats hitting at once. One is internal systems just failing, operational resilience.
Yep, the IT stability problem.
And the second is an external attack succeeding by hitting the weakest link trust in a supplier.
Exactly. And our sources, well, recent research suggests maybe a third of all successful cyber attacks now start through third-party vendors or external platforms. It's a huge attack surface.
So companies face this double threat, their own critical systems failing, which is about resilience and investment.
And their trusted partners getting breached, which is about supply chain security, vetting, contracts. Much harder to control sometimes.
Okay, so if that's transport, let's shift gears. Let's talk about the really fundamental stuff, power grids. critical infrastructure.
We saw a confirmed incident in Sweden. The national grid operator, Svenska Kraftnät, they reported ransomware and a data breach.
That's right, claimed by the Everest ransomware group. They said they stole about 280 gigabytes of internal files.
Okay, 280 gigs, that sounds like a lot. But the crucial thing,
The crucial reassurance from Svenska Kraftnät was that the power system itself, the operational technology, the OT that keeps the lights on, remained unaffected, secure. Thank goodness for that. But I have to pause on the attackers here. Everest. Our sources had a bit of background, didn't they?
yeah, it's kind of ironic. They're thought to be Russian-speaking, but just criminal, not state-sponsored.
And
And this is the same group that got kind of mocked back in 2024 for a really small, pretty inept data theft during a MailChimp breach.
wait, seriously, the group that botched a MailChimp data grab is now successfully hitting national power grids.
It seems so. Even if they only got administrative files this time, it shows a terrifying jump in ambition for these, well, more opportunistic criminal groups.
They're realizing the leverage in hitting infrastructure, even if they aren't state actors.
Exactly. But then you contrast that sort of smash-and-grab ransomware with what happened at Ribbon Communications.
Okay, Ribbon, major telco supplier, right?
Yeah.
Big international player.
Huge. Their customers include Verizon, CenturyLink, and significantly, the U.S. Department of Defense.
So a very high-value target. What happened there?
The company believes it was hit by a nation-state actor. The goal wasn't ransom. It was espionage, stealing corporate files, maybe government-related ones.
Classic espionage target, long-term goal.
And here's where it gets really alarming. The initial investigation, it suggests the attacker might have been inside their network since December 2024.
December 2024, that's what, 9, 10 months? Undetected?
At least. That's a long time for an adversary to be lurking inside a critical supplier's network, monitoring things, extracting data slowly, maybe setting up persistence.
Ribbon said the impact was limited, though. Something about 4 older customer files from 2 laptops. And they notified the affected customers, who were smaller ones.
They did say that, but
Yeah.
hang on, is that really reassuring?
That's what I was thinking. Does it matter what they stole compared to the fact that a presumed nation-state actor lived inside a major defense and comms supplier for nearly a year?
Absolutely not. The quantity of data is almost beside the point. It's the dwell time. 9 months undetected access.
What could they do in that time?
Map the network inside out. Plant backdoors for future access. And critically, in a supply chain context like this, potentially tamper with software updates going out to Ribbon's clients.
Like the DoD Verizon.
Exactly. It raises massive questions about the systemic security of, well, the entire global telecom backbone if suppliers can be compromised like this for so long.
Okay. So the target profile is widening. Travel, telcos, power grids, hit by ransomware, and long-term espionage. If infrastructure and supply chains are the targets, what about the weapons? You mentioned 0 days earlier.
Right, the weapons of choice. We saw 2 big immediate threats pop up recently in the vulnerability space. One very tailored, one depressingly common.
Let's start with the tailored one.
Okay, Google patched a high-severity Chrome bug. Pretty serious flaw.
Right.
But it was already being actively exploited in the wild as a 0 day before the patch came out.
A 0 day, meaning attackers were using it before Google even knew about it or had a fix.
Precisely. This flaw was rated 8.3 out of 10, an incorrect handle flaw, technically.
And who was being targeted with the 0 day?
The targets identified were quite specific. Russian media outlets, government organizations, also educational and financial institutions over there. So this incorrect handle flaw, what does that actually let an attacker do? Well, it essentially confuses the way the browser talks to the operating system about memory. It tricks it. And the danger was magnified because of the malware they used with it. Dante.
Dante Spyware. I think I've heard that name.
You might have. It's linked to a company called Memento Labs. They're basically the successor to the infamous hacking team, commercial spyware outfit.
Hacking team. Right. So how did they use the Chrome flaw and Dante together?
An attacker could get someone to open a malicious file. The Chrome flaw then allowed them to perform a sandbox escape.
Sandbox escape, getting out of the browser's secure container.
Exactly. The sandbox is meant to keep bad code contained. Once they escaped it, they could run code on the actual computer.
And then Dante comes in?
Yep. The Dante spyware was then deployed to steal sensitive files directly from the victim's system, from the underlying operating system.
So this is that whole dark market for commercial spyware again. Tools sold for big money, often to governments.
Often advertised for legitimate uses like counterterrorism, but frequently sold to authoritarian regimes to target political opponents, journalists, dissidents. Remember the Israeli NSO group getting blacklisted in the U.S.?
Yeah, for Pegasus spyware being used the same way.
Same pattern. It's not really counterterrorism. It's often political oppression enabled by cutting-edge exploits.
So that's the high-end bespoke attack using a brand new flaw. But you said there was a depressingly common one, too.
Yeah, almost at the exact same time, we saw CISA, the U.S. cybersecurity agency, step in to mandate immediate patching for a very basic fundamental admin tool.
Which one?
Windows Server Update Service, WSUS. The tool companies use to manage and deploy Microsoft patches across their networks.
Wow. The patching tool itself had a critical flaw. The juxtaposition is kind of shocking, isn't it? High-tech spyware versus the update tool.
It is genuinely shocking. CISA added this WSUS vulnerability, it's CVE 2025-59287, to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. That's the list of bugs actively used by attackers.
Which forced Microsoft's hand.
Forced an emergency patch because there were reports of it being exploited in the wild almost immediately, and this thing is rated 9.8 out of 10 severity.
9.8! That's nearly a perfect score. What makes it so bad?
It allows remote code execution RCE with system privileges. That's the highest level of access on a Windows machine.
Okay.
And it has low attack complexity and, crucially, needs no user interaction. The attacker just needs network access to the WSUS server.
In WSUS servers,
Yeah,
they're designed to push updates across the whole network with high privileges, right?
Exactly. System privileges. So if an attacker compromises your WSUS server, they essentially own your entire Windows network. They can push malicious updates, malware, anything.
Oh, that's bad. And were many of these vulnerable servers exposed?
Research found over 2,800 WSUS instances just sitting exposed online on their default ports. Easy targets.
So if you're in charge of patching, and you see a 9.8 RCC bug being exploited on the tool you use for patching, that's a wake-up call.
It absolutely is. It shows attackers aren't always hunting for exotic 0 days. Sometimes they just scan for publicly exposed management tools running with default, vulnerable configurations. Basic hygiene failures.
So it's this fascinating contrast, isn't it? You've got sophisticated nation-states, maybe inside telcos for months, commercial spyware using fresh Chrome 0 days.
And at the same time, critical enterprise tools like WSUS getting popped because of, frankly, poor configuration and fundamental security hygiene. It's a reminder that basics still matter hugely. Most breaches still exploit the simple gaps.
Okay, so let's try and tie this together. What does all this mean for you, the listener, taking all this in? It's a lot.
Yes.
We've seen IT outages and cyber attacks hitting transport side by side, highlighting internal fragility. We've seen targeted long-haul espionage against critical government suppliers, like Ribbon. And we've seen the weapons evolve from that bespoke spyware using 0 days to attackers leveraging basic flaws in essential tools like WSUS.
I think the common thread, really, across all these different incidents, the IT failure, the supply chain breach, the espionage, the exploits, it's complexity and interconnectedness.
How so?
Well, the fragility of modern IT just means your risk management has to go way beyond your own firewall now. The resilience of your own service, your own company, is fundamentally tied to the security of every single vendor you rely on.
And critically, the security hygiene of your own internal management tools too, right? Like WSUS.
Absolutely. It's defense in depth, but also breadth across your entire ecosystem, internal and external.
So maybe this raises an important question for you to consider this week, especially thinking about that Alaska Airlines outage.
Right, the non-cyber one.
If a simple data center failure, not a hack, can ground 50,000 people and trigger this massive internal review, how much effort are you and your organization really spending on validating operational resilience, on basic IT stability?
As opposed to just focusing on fighting off the external attackers all the time.
Exactly. Where's the balance? Is the focus right? Something to think about.
A very important question.
Well, thank you for joining us for this exploration of these recent security events. We'll see you next week on Calm Coding.